We're here today on RealAgriculture.com with Dr. Daryl Tatum from Colorado State University. Dr. Tatum is a meat scientist in the Department of Animal Science. Welcome today, Dr. Tatum.
Thanks, Sean.
Dr. Tatum, you talked a little bit this morning about there being a bit of a disconnect. Is there a disconnect between consumer wants and producer goals as it pertains to quality, consumer acceptance, and economics of production?
Yeah, definitely so. I think in our North American markets, I would say there is. And part of that, if you look at today's consumers, their wants are changing. Their purchase habits are different than they have been. They're wanting more specific kinds of products that meet certain kinds of needs that they have or preferences that they have. And our production sector is still largely a commodity-driven type of sector. And so the producers basically produce for weight and pounds and try to make their money by producing efficiently, and sometimes don't pay as much attention to the quality levels because of that. They're just not paid to do that by our marketing system. So what it does, that kind of creates a chasm or a disconnect between the consumer level, the consumer interface, and what we see going on in the feedlots and at the production level and packing houses and so forth.
So how can we narrow that gap?
Well, I think it's going to take some time to kind of make that happen. Part of what is happening is there's a lot of programs emerging that are getting more specific in terms of being consumer driven. A lot of the branded type programs are trying to do that, where they're really beginning to identify what is it that somebody wants and then trying to produce to meet those needs. But that's not it's not a mainstream production goal right now.
So, in terms of growth technologies, a lot of times when we talk about these sort of technologies, it's a kind of an all or none sort of discussion, especially at the consumer level. It's very important, can you discuss that not all growth technologies are created or are the same and have different impacts? Right.
The growth technologies that we talked about, from a producer's point of view, what they are management tools. A consumer sees that differently. They look at it more in terms of, what are you putting in my food and is it safe? And all of the ones that have been approved for use in livestock production have been through pretty rigorous food safety tests and trials and are safe to consume. And so to me personally, consuming products that have been developed or grown using growth enhancement technologies is a big thing. I don't worry about the safety. Relative to the differences between them, there are a multitude of combinations that are available to producers, and their effects in how much they change the growth of the animal or change carcass traits like marbling or ribeye size or weight or those kinds of things, they have to do with the dosage rates and the potency of the product. And so if a producer is interested in kind of balancing things out, trying to get maximum performance on the animal and weight gain that's efficient and profitable for them, and then still produce something that's high quality for the producer, what they need to do is really strategize and design growth management programs that put the sequence of growth technologies together that ends up giving them that result. And so they may use a less potent product to save some on the quality side, give up a little bit of performance, but still, produce some weight and still maintain profitability. So it's a balancing game that you have to play. It depends on a lot on the kinds of animals, the type of cattle that you're going to be feeding. Some will respond way differently to these kinds of products than others, and so. And some of them, if they're really big cattle to begin with, they don't need a lot of growth enhancement, whereas some of the other cattle that might be smaller, lighter weight, slower growing, are the ones that really benefit a lot from the use of growth enhancement technologies.
And so when you say giving up something on the quality end, how are you defining quality?
Well, the two things that really growth enhancement will affect are primarily intramuscular fat deposition, marbling in the meat, which is important from the standpoint of flavor and tenderness and juiciness. And so If you go overboard, if you get too aggressive and use very, very potent growth enhancement technologies, you will reduce the amount of fat that's deposited within the muscle. And so you'll make the product a little tougher, a little drier, a little less flavorful by doing that. So that's one way. Also, some of the products, particularly the more potent ones, actually have a direct effect on meat tenderness, and they can cause meat to be tougher because what they do is they slow down the aging process of the meat. And so typically when you're talking about beef, for example, it requires a few days of storage at refrigerated temperatures to naturally tenderize. And if you get real aggressive with growth enhancement, you'll slow down that tenderization process, and so it can stay tough for a longer period of time.
So you've